What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson. And today, the New York Giants are kicking off phase 3 of their offseason programming with OTAs beginning today. 10 days of OTAs here for the New York Giants coming up, but no live contact permitted. They're going to be doing a lot of 7-on-7, 9-on-7, and 11-on-11 drills for the next couple of weeks, getting everyone acclimated to the offense and getting that chemistry going with Daniel Jones, the rest of his playmakers, and a bunch of the defensive players as well. So today, we want to go ahead, take a look at 3 players in specific that we're going to be keeping a close eye on during OTAs. Again, with no live contact, you can't really get too much out of guys like 6th-round pick Jordan Riley or really even offensive lineman John Michael Schmitz, though there is something about John Michael Schmitz that I do want to discuss as we look ahead to OTAs. But in primary, we're going to be taking a look at some of these skill position players who we're keeping a close eye on during OTAs. So we're going to go ahead and dive into all of that and more. But before we do, make sure to leave a like if you do enjoy this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode. Comment your thoughts on the topic down below. And of course, if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. But without further ado, Alex, how are you doing today, my friend? And before we dive into those 3 main players that we're going to discuss, I want to hear your thoughts on John Michael Schmitz going into OTAs and the potential controversy here with the way that he snaps the football.
Well, you know what? JMS, you can't say enough good things about the guy. Intelligent. He is obviously going to be an impact player for this Giants team. And I'll tell you what, right now, you talk about OTAs, football's getting started. You know I'm excited about that. This is going to be a very, very fun kind of off season as we get used to a lot of new faces. There's a lot of new players on this roster. You know, of course, our 1st and 2nd round picks and our 3rd round picks and our late round guys who obviously have a lot of talent, and athleticism was a big catalyst for this draft class, and they did a really good job finding guys who are just superior athletes and they can mold into really good players. So you look at some of the acquisitions. We talked to Bobby Okereke, Darren Waller. I mean, for goodness sakes, we added some tremendous talent to both sides of the football, and our draft selections were equally as awesome. So I'm super excited. I know the OTAs are going to be really, really fun. But the fact of the matter is we still have a long way to go. We're still theoretically in a developmental stage where we're trying to see if our defense can take a big step forward. Obviously, we're not one of the best run defenses in the league last year. We actually, I think, ranked 27th in yards allowed per game on the defensive side. So, and that was the run game specifically. So the Giants made big improvements. A'Shawn Robinson, of course, Nunez Roche, and then you look at Bobby Okereke, and we get maybe Darian Beavers back, and maybe Micah McFadden takes a big step forward. And you still got Dexter Lawrence, and you still got Leonard Williams. This is going to be a very good run-stopping unit. And then our outside guys, our cornerbacks, Adoree Jackson stepped up big in the run game last year, was really, really good tackling on the outside. Deonte Banks, he's known for that physicality. He loves to get involved. He's not scared. He is a physical cornerback. He can do everything you want him to do. So I'm pretty confident that this Giants team is about to get a lot better, even though PFN believes that they're going to be the 29th ranked defense in football and one of the worst, and they took big steps backward, and they're on methamphetamine. So we don't listen to them anyway. And the Giants right now, I feel we're making good progress. The coaching staff is excellent. The players are getting better. The experience is getting improved, and things are trending in the right direction. Offensively, you can say the same as well. Finally, Daniel Jones isn't changing offensive coordinators every year, so that should be a good thing for us, I would imagine. But Anthony, dive into your first guy for me. I know you wanted to talk about JMS first and foremost. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on him as a guy that you're looking at during OTAs.
Yeah, so I'm not really going to be keeping too close of an eye on JMS because, again, no live contact at OTAs. You can't really get much out of offensive linemen when they're just, running into tackle sheds and everything like that. And there's no real blocking that they're going to be doing on any of the defensive players because, again, no live contact. But what I am looking at with John Michael Schmitz here is his snap technique. So throughout his collegiate career, he used the dead snap technique, which is a completely different way of holding the football. You hold the front of the ball and then kind of throw it back rather than holding it by the laces and kind of spinning it back to the quarterback. And in the NFL, there's a more traditional snap technique used. Again, John Michael Schmitz using the dead snap technique. Nobody in the NFL uses that. At minicamp, the Giants let him use that so that he could be comfortable, but I am going to be keeping an eye to see whether or not the Giants have him switch during OTAs or if they allow him to continue with his dead snap technique, and if that carries into the regular season. I think that's something to keep an eye on, but again, not too much to get out of John Michael Schmitz during OTAs. But Deonte Banks, first-round pick, there's a whole lot that you can get out of him. So let's talk about why I'm keeping an eye on Deonte Banks. And again, it all just has to do with the fact that no live contact. So I want to see how these guys move. I want to see these these athletes. And Deonte Banks had a 10 overall, perfect 10 score on the relative athletic score. He is an elite athlete, the definition of an elite athlete from the cornerback position. 4.35-second 40-yard dash time, truly elite speed, playmaking ability. I can't wait to watch this guy get on the field. And what I'm excited about with OTAs is that there is going to be one-on-one routes, right? You are going to see opportunities for guys like Jalen Hyatt versus Deonte Banks in OTAs. So that's what I'm trying to keep an eye on is, Banks being such a physical cornerback, but he's not allowed to be physical during OTAs. So how does he deal with this off coverage with a little bit of zone here, a little bit of off man coverage during OTAs? I'm going to be keeping an eye on him and seeing, because if he steps right into OTAs and just starts locking everybody up without being physical, without being allowed to play press man coverage, if he just steps in there, starts making an impact with his athleticism and everything else, that's going to be really exciting for Giants fans because we're going to know that this kid is ready to make an impact from day one. So I'm keeping a close eye on Deonte Banks. Giants.com posted an article today titled Fact or Fiction OTA Predictions Players to Watch. All 4 of the writers picked fact for the prompt. Cornerback Deonte Banks is a defensive player you'll be watching most closely at OTAs, and I also agree. I will be watching him very closely. I am so thrilled with that selection, so excited to see this first-round pick get on the field here. And again, seeing him line up against some of these new additions to the Giants offense, right? And we're going to dive into one of them in a second here. But you've got guys like Paris Campbell, Jalen Hyatt. If Wan'Dale Robinson's healthy to participate, I'm not sure if he is, but he'll be out there as well if he is. Just seeing Deonte Banks, I want to see his true speed, right? Like I want to see him line up against Jalen Hyatt in these OTAs and see who's faster, who gets to the ball, who makes the play on the ball during these live drills. That's what I'm excited to see. So again, keeping a close eye on Deonte Banks. The big part of his skill set that made him such a great player during his collegiate career was his physicality, his ability to just delete wide receivers at the line of scrimmage and press man coverage. But he can't do that during OTAs. So how does he adjust? Can he play that off man? And how well does he play with that off man in these live drills and these 7-on-7s and all these 1-on-1s? I'm really excited to see that. But Alex, why are you excited to watch cornerback Deonte Banks out of Maryland in OTAs?
I mean, the obvious reason is athleticism. You know what I mean? Like you said, 4.35 speed. The guy's a freak of nature. He's got really good size, really good wingspan. I want to see him go up against Jalen Hyde. I want to see him go up against Hodgins, who's a different type of receiver. I want to see him go up against freaking Waller for all that matters. I want to see him go up against every single person who's going to be catching passes for this New York Giants team and just getting his feet wet, getting his feet wet in the NFL and just getting some reps against legitimate guys. Again, like you said, not going to be padded, but at the very least, you can see his man coverage qualities. You can see him mark and track these receivers, utilize some of those fundamentals that don't require pads. So I'm excited to see that. Deonte Banks, he's going to be a big part of our defense. Like what we see in OTAs is nothing. It really doesn't mean anything for the most part because again, it's like half, it's like 50% speed. It's like not padding. They're not really going full because they don't want to get injured. And, they're just kind of getting into the groove. They're learning the coaching staff. They're learning the repertoire. They're learning the routine and the strategies and the scheme. So I just want to see him look like he knows what he's doing. Like he's caught up. He knows the playbook. Like he's just kind of getting up to speed with things and learning well and making good progress every day. That's all I want to see from Deonte Banks. You know what I mean? Like he's better than Trey Hawkins, right? Like our late round draft pick at cornerback. Like I want to see him showcase the little things that the little cultural things that we want in the locker room, the personality, the leadership, all of those variables. So I think that kind of is exactly what I'm looking for when it comes to Deonte Banks.
Yeah, listen, I'm excited to see that speed, see how he matches up in that off coverage again, because he can't get physical and at the line of scrimmage. So I think it'll be a good test for him, kind of having to play a different style of defense, a different style of coverage for these OTA periods. And again, can't see too much at OTAs for any of these players, but there are certain aspects of their game that you can see. And one of those aspects that you will be able to see on full display is speed for Deonte Banks and for Paris Campbell, the next guy that I want to talk about, because Paris Campbell, a really exciting signing, someone who I said I can't wait I really wanted to see the Giants sign. Leading up to free agency, we did an episode about Paris Campbell, talking about why the Giants should sign him. They went ahead and did it on that 1-year incentive-laden contract, and I'm thrilled about it because this guy brings brings a lot of speed, run after the catch, big play ability to the Giants offense, plays inside, plays outside, versatile guy. So at OTAs, and when they line up on those 7-on-7s or those 11-on-11 drills, right, I'm curious to see where's he lining up primarily. Are they putting him at the slot? Are they putting him at the Z on the outside? How are they going to be using him in this offense? And are they typically putting him on vertical routes, or is he getting a lot of those screen passes, those drag routes, those short underneath routes to turn upfield and make yards after the catch? So I'm curious to see exactly how they use him. But again, the main thing that I'm excited to see is his speed. I want to see the Giants finally have one of these 4-3 guys go out there. Jalen Hyatt included in this conversation, but in particular, Paris Campbell, a veteran player here, has struggled a lot with injuries throughout his career, but stayed healthy in 2022 and had the best season of his career. And now joining the New York Giants here, I'm thrilled to see him get acclimated to Brian Dable's offense. I'm curious to see how Dable and Kafka ease him into the lineup during OTAs, where they're lining him up, how they're utilizing him, and everything else in between. Because Campbell, again, we talked to Bobby Okereke last week on the channel. If you didn't see that interview, go back on the channel, check it out. And he, former teammate of Paris Campbell during his time with the Indianapolis Colts, he said he's fast. He's fast as heck, extremely fast. 4.3 is an understatement. That's what Okereke had to say about Campbell. And listen, I'm excited to see that for sure. Again, non-contact drills, you're not going to see these guys get hit, but what you will see, Paris Campbell torching some cornerbacks, and I'm just thrilled for that. So that's one of the players that I'm keeping a close eye on at OTAs. But Alex, why are you excited to see Paris Campbell at OTAs? I'm sure the speed has a big part to do with it. And of course, does that also give you a lot of interest in other guys like Jalen Hyatt as well?
Of course, you know what I like about Paris Campbell the most, though, is that he is incentivized to do well this year. You know, you love these contracts that are incentive laden. He has to have a career season to even hit the baseline for some of these incentives, notably, I think, yards and touchdowns. So if you ask me, he's got something to fight for. He's got something to prove. And when you have players that have something to prove, you see the best of them oftentimes. And Paris Campbell's a good dude. Okereke also said, you know, he's a great guy. He's a leader. He's competitive. He said, like, in the locker room, they'll be playing like cornhole and stuff. He's like one of the most competitive guys there. That's the person we want. Those are cultural guys that fit our mold. So I'm very excited to see him just elevate the offense, bring a lot of speed out of the slot, help this team do more, take attention away from Saquon, from Waller, from DJ, and help this passing game improve. And ultimately, this is a player who, like Jalen Hyatt and Darius Slayton, can dominate on crossing routes. They can beat up the seams. They can beat on the boundary. They can do a lot of stuff for you with that agility and that straightaway speed. This is a player who I agree with you on in terms of I'm very excited about because he's going under the radar. We're all focused on Hodgins and Darren Waller and Saquon and DJ. Paris Campbell may end up being one of our best playmakers this year. You know, you heard it here first. Like he may end up being a legitimate contributor to this team, one that produces on a weekly basis, and he comes up clutch on third downs because of that speed. He makes some guys miss in the open field, and he has something to fight for because he wants to get a long-term contract. You know, he's on a 1-year incentive-laden deal. He can maximize it and leverage that into a long-term deal elsewhere with the Giants. Who knows? So right now, he has something to fight for. He has something to prove. The Giants are getting a lot of that effort and that, you know, 1-year deal kind of incentive-laden production. So I'm hyped about it, and I think that's a really underrated perspective to consider when it comes to Campbell.
Yeah, and again, also excited just to see where he lines up, how the Giants use him in the offense. And that also reminds me of the third player that I want to discuss that I'm keeping a close eye on at training camp, the big blockbuster acquisition for the offseason, Darren Waller, because there's two words that come to mind for Darren Waller for me heading into OTAs. The first one, chemistry with Daniel Jones, and the second one, versatility, where Brian Dable and Mike Kafka lining him up during OTAs. Because again, no padding on, but we will be able to see on 11 and on 11. They're going to run some drills. They're going to run through some of these plays and install them into their offense. So let's see, where is Darren Waller? How frequently is he lining up out wide during these OTAs? How frequently is he in the slot? And how frequently is he in line playing as a tight end? That's what I'm looking for. And again, speed. We know that speed was a big theme of the offseason for the Giants. As you mentioned, Alex, they brought in Paris Campbell, 4.3 speed, brought in Jalen Hyatt, 4.4 speed, and now Darren Waller, arguably the fastest, shiftiest tight end in the NFL. they really upgraded in the speed and athleticism department on offense and defense this offseason. And again, Darren Waller being one of the most athletic tight ends in the NFL, but also being one of the most versatile tight ends in the NFL. So at these OTAs, I'm curious to see where the Giants start lining him up and how often are they going into these 11 on 11 drills with two tight ends. We know that they added a bunch of talent at the wide receiver spot, but that shouldn't diminish the fact that they have some great talent at tight end behind Darren Waller and Daniel Bellinger. So, Alex, when you're looking at OTAs here with Darren Waller, where do you think he is going to line up the most? Again, because they aren't able to put on pads, do you think that they're going to line him up a lot in line as they install this offense, or do you think that they might just try moving him around and playing him a lot more at receiver because it is OTAs and he can't have the pads on?
I think the truth is that Darren Waller is meant to reproduce a wide receiver one production. He was our cheap supplement for wide receiver one. And I would say by nature, my logic, my first instinct would say that more production will come out of the slot than in line, right? Like he's going to get more production as a receiver than a inline traditional tight end. So if I was to assume, if I was to guess, this is my professional opinion or unprofessional opinion, essentially I think that he's going to end up becoming this jumbo slot for the Giants, and he's going to end up collecting a lot of receiving yards on those outposts and those in routes and those, flat routes and a lot of things that he does well, beating the seams with his speed, getting out to the boundary with his speed. Daniel Jones is really good at hitting those out routes. He's going to be open there. And I think that Darren Waller, they're going to open up his route tree. They're going to expand upon it, and they're going to attack the hell out of opposing secondaries. And yes, you can do that from an inline position, but you can do it even better from a jumbo slot spot. You look at Travis Kelce, they use him out of the slot a lot. He may end up playing really close to the line of scrimmage, but standing up and not putting his hand in the dirt. And that way he breaks away. And a lot of times Travis Kelce wreaks havoc because when you're that close to the line of scrimmage, one, you don't exactly know where you're going to go because you're closer to the middle of the field. You could break in, you could break out, and you force opposing defenses to communicate more, which ultimately leads to more probability of mistakes. So a linebacker may say, oh, we got to hand this guy off to a safety, and Travis Kelce capitalizes on that, or vice versa. In the slot, I think Darren Waller's fast enough to beat up on slot cornerbacks with his size. He can beat the hell out of linebackers, and he can sure as hell beat the hell out of strong safeties. So I think that right now, it's going to be a fun thing to see how they utilize him, but I'd say my preference would be utilizing him as a receiver more than inline tight end. Honestly, the NFL is a copycat league. I would literally go watch while the Chiefs use Travis Kelce and copy and paste that entire freaking playbook, their tight end playbook, right into the Giants playbook. That was what I do. And you don't even need to copy and paste it because Mike Kafka already has the whole freaking thing. So just literally get the guy and then implement it. And, Darren Waller has the talent to replicate what Travis Kelce does for them. And that's where I'm going to be looking to get the most production out of him. Travis Kelce is an elite wide receiver one. That's why he's drafted as the top receiver every single year, the top tight end rather. He produces more than most wide receiver ones. So if the Giants literally copy and paste exactly how the Chiefs use him, and they do that with Darren Waller, the sky's the limit, man. I think that we could see one of the best tight ends that we've seen in a very long time on this Giants team this upcoming season.
Yeah, man. I mean, when was the last time the Giants brought in a talent like this at the tight end spot? Again, I love Daniel Bellinger, and I think he's going to be a great player for the Giants this upcoming season, despite the fact that Waller is on the roster. And I'm super excited to see what he does this upcoming season. But that was a mid-round investment. The Giants, of course, investing with a third-round pick, technically a mid-round investment in Darren Waller, but really adding a premier talent to the position, something that they have not done in a very long time. And again, the versatility that he provides to this offense, the ability to line up as a tight end, as a slot, and even out wide as a true X receiver. This guy is a truly special talent. Hopefully he stays healthy. And again, as we get into OTAs, that's going to be the main thing for all of these players. Nobody's going too hard. There's no physical contact. Nobody's getting hit, but there is a lot of running. There is a lot of cutting. Hopefully everybody stays healthy, keeping my fingers crossed and saying a prayer that all of these players stay healthy throughout OTAs. Every year, there is always one or two players that does go down with like a random injury very early on in the offseason programming, but I'm hoping that the Giants get away unscathed this offseason during OTAs and hopefully stay very healthy throughout the offseason and into the postseason. But of course, if there are any injuries or any exciting topics of news and any pieces of information coming out of OTAs, you can be sure that it will be updated to you right here on Fireside Giants. So make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you are new and ring the bell so you don't miss an episode. Comment your thoughts on this topic down below in the comment section. And again, if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. But without further ado, we will catch you all in the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.